Natarika, welcome to Thailand Today here on NBT World. UN warns worsen impacts of global warming in next 11 years. The UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, report released on Monday has warned there is only a dozen years for global warming to be kept to a maximum of 1.5 Celsius beyond which even half of a degree, which significantly worsen the risk of drought, floods, extreme heat, and poverty for hundreds of millions of people. The report says urgent and unprecedented changes are needed to reach a target which is affordable and feasible, although it lies at the most ambitious end of the Paris Agreement pledged to keep temperatures between 1.5 Celsius and 2 Celsius. And half a degree difference could also prevent corals from being completely eradicated and ease pressure on the Arctic. The world is currently 1 Celsius warmer than pre-industrial levels, following devastating hurricanes in the United States, record droughts in Cape Town, and forest fires in the Arctic. And IPCC makes clear that the climate change is already happening, ungraded its risk warming from previous reports, and warns that every fraction of additional warming would worsen the impact. At 1.5 Celsius, the proportion of the global population exposed to water stress could be 50% lower than at 2 Celsius. It notes food scarcity would be less of a problem, and hundreds of millions fewer people, particularly in poor countries, would be at risk of climate-related poverty. Sea level rise would affect 10 million more people by 2100 if the half-degree extra warming brought a forecast 10 centimeter additional pressure on coastlines. The number affected would increase substantially in the following centuries due to locked-in ice melt. Promoting special economic zones and greenhouse gas reduction. The Cabinet, during the meeting on 14 May 2019, approved 2 draft royal decrees on tax measures to promote investment in Thailand's special economic zones and the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. Concerning tax measures to promote investment in the special economic zones, corporate income tax reduction will be offered to entrepreneurs investing in the special economic zones from 20% to 10% for a period of 10 tax years. Requests for the tax reduction are accepted from 1st January 2018 to 30th December 2020. The Ministry of Finance reported that the government is likely to lose 4 million baht in revenue from the corporate income tax reduction. However, these measures will help boost investment in the special economic zones and promote border trade with the neighboring countries. As for tax measures to promote the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, a corporate income tax exception will be offered for 3 tax years to companies, particularly in the voluntary emission reduction program, especially for selling carbon credits both domestically and overseas. Thailand intends to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions by 20-25% within 2030. The goal of 20% is to be achieved by the country's resources alone, while the additional 5% will require international support in terms of finance, know-how, and technology. Thailand to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 20% to 25% within 2030. Thailand will clarify its commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 20 to 25% within 2030 at the 2015 United Nations Climate Change Conference, or COP21, in Paris in December this year. Gasemsan Jinnawatso, Permanent Secretary of the National Resources and Environment Ministry, said a meeting of the Committee on the National Climate Change Policy, chaired by Deputy Prime Minister and Defence Minister Prawit Wongsuwan, has agreed to adjust the target goal to greenhouse gas emission reduction from 15% to 20-25% within 2030. He said Thailand will submit its new climate action plan to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change UNFCCC before October 1st. The 20% is a goal to be achieved by the country's resources alone, while the additional 5% will require international support in terms of finance, know-how, and technology. The priority of the mitigation actions is the energy and transportation sector. The additional costs of the implementation as well as the demand for capacity development were mentioned as the biggest support needs. Consequently, the achievement of 25% against BAU is defined as depending on adequate international support. And additionally, in the INDC, the importance of adaptation of Thailand is emphasized in order to draw attention to financing needs. In the development of INDC, Thailand was also supported by the International Climate Initiative IKI. Countries throughout the world are currently experiencing a need to protect their populations and productive capacities in the face of new climate challenges. Thailand has also begun implementing potential strategies to reduce greenhouse gas, the most significant driver of climate change. So next break, we will meet with a special guest from Thailand Greenhouse Gas Management Organization, TGO, who will tell us how global warming from greenhouse gas could worsen the risk of various disasters, as well as the role of TGO in Thailand's contribution to this global problem. Coming back after a short break.
Show Thai to the world, a concept of Siam-style program to introduce you to well-known Thai role models. Ultimate amazing tourist attractions. Innovative Thai products. Let's proudly join Siam Styles from 4 regions, 77 provinces across Thailand.
Welcome back to Thailand Today here on NBT World. Today we have Mrs. Natarika Wayuparb Nitiphon. She's the Deputy Executive Director of Thailand Greenhouse Gas Management Organization, TGO, will join our program to tell us how global warming from greenhouse gas could worsen the risk of various disasters, as well as the role of TGO in Thailand's contribution to this global problem. So, สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ
Well, welcome to Thailand Today program, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Well, talk about future worsening impact. Scary.
Isn't it?
This is a real terrifying thing. Is it true?
Yes, actually, some people still have a skeptical concept that is global warming is really happen or not. But we can see from the evidence, actually, from our lifetime, we can tell that something changed. That when we were young, the weather was not quite like this. We had the cold weather in the cool season, but nowadays we get hotter and hotter season.
Exactly.
And this year, Thailand reached the temperature about 44 degrees in Lampang province.
I see. Even in Bangkok, we experienced one.
Yes.
So that shows. Tell you frankly, even if these happenings, but there are people didn't realize that this is that.
Yeah.
You know?
Actually, it's like the natural phenomena, but the human development increase the global warming, and now we can see the impacts of the global warming around the world. Like in Australia, the temperature in summer reached 50 degrees Celsius,
Yes, really?
and last week in Paris, in France, it reached about 40 degrees. But in some parts of the world, reach like the minus 37 degrees, like in the USA early this year. So, like extreme climate weather happens everywhere.
So when you talk about 11 years from now, is this a joke or is
Yeah,
it something to be...
the scientists are aware of this issue of the global warming and the impacts like on the climate change. And now we set the global target together according to the UN, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. That's why we have the Paris Agreement, that we cannot have this thing happen and we do not do anything. So that we have to set the target to limit the increase of the global temperature, the global average temperature.
And as for Thailand, we have TGO, Thailand Greenhouse Gas Management Organization. Is this the only organization? Can you tell us about this organization, please?
Thailand Greenhouse Gas Management Organization is a government organization. We are provide the technical service to the stakeholders, to enhance stakeholders, the public sector and private sector, to develop the greenhouse gas emission reduction projects. And we provide a capacity building and knowledge raising for people in Thailand, for the Thai society, and collaborate with international partners as well.
How do they feel about it when you are supposed to be the one who telling them, and this is the only organization we're talking about? So when you express all these kind of things for the Thai people, do they believe you? They ignore
it's
about...
much better. It's much better nowadays. I remember 12 years ago that we start establishing this organization under the royal decree. And at that time, people start to ask, is it real, global warming? Is it happen? So, but nowadays, people start to learn about the impact of the climate change and learn that we are part of it. So people start to have like a development of renewable energy, solar energy, and start to reduce plastic bags, that kind of thing.
Denial of upsetting of
Yeah,
the
carry like a fabric bag. So that kind of thing is like a climate action at different levels.
That we can say that for TGO can be rely on Thai mentality a bit, a bit or more that you
That we
expecting
have
them
to do more to have like telling them the message, the information, and then encourage them to take action according to their levels, like individual level or the private sector, or like corporate level, or even they are the public sector. So they do their roles.
Madam, you see, this is happening is global. We talk about global, but if one particular country handling their own, like Thailand, handling ourselves, but how about the rest of them do not do it? Is there any matter or anything that should be done?
I think that nowadays is the age and no more of I'm the one, I'm the best. I don't have to do anything to do the more like collaboration.
I have no responsibility.
This is the world of collaboration. You can see a lot of things move towards this way to change the problem, because the problem nowadays is more complicated, more complex. So only one person or one organization or one nation cannot solve the problem, especially when it is the global problem. So the collaboration becomes more stronger and stronger. Some countries start to do, I think that most of the country under the UN, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, including Thailand, we submit the country's target. We call it the pledge, that kind of thing. The pledge that this is the number that we are going to do to help reduce global warming.
So the current situation, maybe we are lucky. At least we are on time. Are we still on time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we still on time, and also we have our the deputy executive director here. So maybe you can tell us about the current situation of Thailand, of the world. We did talk a little bit on that, but the greenhouse in Thailand, how bad it is.
Because the global community under the UN Convention on Climate Change will require, I would say, two major things.
Okay.
According to the greenhouse gas mitigation, one is about the communication of how much you emit greenhouse gases to the atmosphere in terms of the country. So every country under this convention, we have commitment to prepare the report telling everyone that how much we emit. So Thailand emits about 220 million tons of CO2 equivalent in last few years. So the trends increase.
Good or bad?
Not very good. So that means like we contribute to the global warming, and the increasing trend will need to be slow down, and be decreased. But the first thing is we have to tell before how much we emit. But the second thing, which is important as well, we have to tell, and every country will have to tell how much we reduce. So everything will require
What is the cause of that?
the number.
What are the cause of that?
Actually, greenhouse gas emissions come from our daily life and our development pathway. The first thing, when we need to use like electricity, we go back to our house, we need to turn on the light, we need to turn on air condition, but that is the part of emission source.
So,
Once you turn on and you use electricity, it generates the greenhouse gas emission to the atmosphere, everything about combustion. But then back to another source, which is the energy production, energy generation, burning fossil fuels. So
refinery.
for us to use electricity, so both are the sources that generate greenhouse gas emissions to the atmosphere. When we come to every places, everyone would like to use the car, buses, that kind of land transport, water transport, that kind of thing, even flying. But burning the fossil fuels from when we use the car, another thing happens again, and then you emit the greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. So you can see energy sector, transport sector emit greenhouse gases already, but we need it. But then how would we develop our country and reduce it? Waste sector as well. The waste it happens. Wastewater generate greenhouse gases, agriculture, that kind of thing. And we slash the forest. The forest is a carbon sink that absorbs the carbon dioxide to itself. And then we do not have much.
So we get back to original.
Yep.
Yeah.
We have to do quite a lot.
Doing the what you call charcoal cooking.
We have to do quite a lot.
Because it's experienced that because the people when we were young, we could see that they used just the charcoal and very less thing. So
Yeah.
nothing happening.
We have to convey our message to have the development in the more eco-friendly, more climate-friendly path. We can be satisfied and convenient, but how to have this kind of concept in everyone's mind.
How does the greenhouse gas interfere with the climate change?
The greenhouse gases, when I will start from the when we have human activities, and then it going up and condense in the atmosphere around the world. So when the sunlight comes, the warmth comes from outside, from solar. So it doesn't go out well because it's like a blanket. We start to have blanket thicker and thicker, more layers of the blanket. Then the earth is getting warmer and warmer because it cannot reflect the warmth outside pretty much. So that kind of thing we call global warming and the climate change that happens to the water scarcity, the extreme climate weather, the severe drought happens, the severe flood happened. So that kind of thing, extreme climate weather, and then it affects to the agriculture production, food production, water scarcity.
I need you to tell to the audience because this is not a joke or is there something to be altered, but something to be worrying about.
Yeah.
Can't help it because when we talk about all this kind of thing, we don't want to scare people, but it's threatening.
It happens.
It has to
it
say,
happens, and we have to realize that it happens, and then we start to do because. For my personal view, I think one of the worst problem on the climate change is we do not realize that we are part of it. We get impacts of that. We are affected from that, and we do not even know that we are part of emissions. So the message should be convey to the public more and more that okay, that's why you need to do the climate action in your role.
We'll get back today with a bunch of candles.
Well, yeah, we start. We have to
should be
think.
starting at
That's
least
why,
for a few
growing
hours.
trees.
But how about the smoke of the candle? That's not much of that. Supposing we use in a house.
Combustion. Combustion. Every combustion. But
more or less.
It will. Yes, more or less.
So how does the climate change affect the ecosystem?
Many people see that the picture of the polar bear. That's the first thing that people heard about the polar bear. But the polar bear live in the the North Pole, and it has the ecosystem. It has a habitat. Its habitat is the ice sheet, but the ice sheet gets melt and crack and sprayed, float into the ocean. So that kind of thing happens like we are human. We live on Earth, on the ground. But their ground, their habitat is sea ice. And when it happens like that, when nowadays the climate scientists find that the polar bears start to be drowning more and more because they are not fish. They cannot swim. They cannot live in the sea all the time. They try to swim back, but the more and more they try, so they get drowning. And some cannot have scarcity and die from starvation, that kind of thing. So you can see that more of the pictures of the polar bear is scurrying for the food, go to their human habitat more and more because they cannot find the food enough for living. So that is only one thing for the ecosystem. In the North Pole that you can see that, global warming, climate change, everyone see the picture of the polar bear, what happened? But nowadays it gets more and more.
Okay, we're going to come back to talk about the United Nations Framework Convention change. Okay, we are coming back to the end of the first part of our interview. So next we'll focus on Thailand's measures to reduce greenhouse gas and also the United Nations Framework Convention. Please stay tuned.
In 2019, Thailand is ready for ASEAN chairmanship, working together and building solidarity to increase competitiveness and innovation with the people at the center. All sectors are ready to promote unity of the ASEAN community. NBT World is excited to be a full supporter of the Thai ASEAN chairmanship. Keep up to date on ASEAN 2019 movement with NBT World.
Welcome back once again to our program. We are still with the deputy executive director of Thailand Greenhouse TGO. So she will explain how Thailand responds to this global problem. But before that, we left a little bit on what is the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC.
This is the multilateral environmental agreement, one of the largest MEA, the multilateral
Yes.
environmental agreement in the world under the United Nations.
When did they start thinking about this?
It was accepted in 1992
That means
from the UN Development Commission on Development endorsed that the global warming is the important issues. So people will start from the Sustainable Development, and then we need the UN Framework Convention to address this problem particularly. That's why in 1992 this convention was endorsed. And it has a party members, almost 200 parties, including
200
Thailand.
party, 200 countries.
Yes, including
But
Thailand.
we are more than that. How about the rest
We have to join as a party to the convention every time, so the country will have to make decision to be part of that.
In the world, there's about many more. So where are they? Why not joining?
They will have to have that decision from the parliament, go through the parliament and decide to join.
So the cooperation between. So we are under the Paris Agreement.
Yes, the Paris Agreement
Can you divide
under the UNFCCC. It's like a big law,
Okay.
international law.
All right.
And then the parties under the UNFCCC endorsed that, okay, we now have to have something called Paris Agreement. So this is an agreement that will require the parties to join again
For what you're talking about, I mean,
to set
the
the
Paris Agreement.
target,
To set
to
the
set the
target, which
target
way to go,
to work.
how do we do it, like get rid of this, promoting of that,
Yes.
something like that, under
Yes.
the agreement.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's like the law, but it does not have the legal commitment. But people who would like to express their intention to do things to combat the global warming, the climate change, and then they join this agreement. And the agreement have like articles, and the articles will set Article 2, the aims, the target of this agreement, and then later what we have to do.
Okay. Is there any punishment or
No.
no?
No,
Something.
it will require the collaboration, but this is more like international law. So once the country decide and submit the letter that okay, we agree to join this agreement, so this is more like commitment, but not the punishment. But once the country submit the target, the number, every country would have to do to meet the target that we submit.
If the particular country see to that,
Yes.
I mean, they believe in it.
Yep.
But there's some country we don't want to mention. The president himself did not even agree of such a thing. And it's a big country.
Yes. According to the administration of that country, sometimes sometimes the leader will decide to join, but sometimes the leader will not decide to join. So that's why I would like to stress one thing: the leader and the leadership is really important to set the policy that okay, we'll go this way.
Yeah, right.
So
Right. So the meeting, how do you meet the members? How do they meet? Have any conference or anything to talk about yearly or periodically? How?
of course, the UNFCCC would have meetings that we call the international negotiations every year, and the mid-year and end of the year in November, December. We have to establish the delegates from each country, the group of the delegates, to join this meeting. But when it is the meeting for the UN conference, it's called COP, the Conference of the Parties. So it's like the parliament, if you imagine the big parliament, that each country will have their delegates, the group of delegates, and sit behind the name of the country.
I see.
So everything they talk to the convention, that is like the position of your country. That's why this is not only the meeting. This is a negotiation. You have to
Representative of
represent
the
the
country.
position of your country.
So you have to have the proper solution in hand
Yep.
to talk to them, right?
Of course.
So this is good in a way of when negotiate. But I'm asking this because we could see it's not lessen, it's increasing.
It's
So
yeah.
I don't know how do you meet and what could be done? Could we
So,
anything to be done or what?
Like nowadays, the greenhouse gas emissions, like from almost 200 countries around the world, getting increase like 40 million tons CO2 every year and increasing. But if we do not do anything to slow down the emissions, so it will not work. So that's why the Paris Agreement set the target to limit the increase of global temperature to like increase no more than 2 degrees Celsius, but to do your best to limit to like 1.5 degrees Celsius. So that's why it requires the contribution from countries. Many countries would submit their numbers.
They've done good.
Yeah. Thailand would, of course, submit our country's number as well for emissions. Other countries in ASEAN, of course, Laos, Cambodia,
They could do that.
of Indonesia,
I think
Philippines,
their
they
life
submit
still
as well. The European countries, Japan, and many countries will submit of with the number that what they think this is appropriate to their countries to reduce greenhouse gases. But the thing is, only one submission is not enough. One submission is like you promise to the world that you will do your best to do the climate action. But that is not enough. So every 5 years, that's why we have 2 shots now. The first shot from now until 2020, the year 2020, how much is your number, so country's number to reduce. And the second shot is from 2020 to 2030. So this is another number of how much you will do for the world in terms of the global warming. So Thailand submit and the Prime Minister General Prayut Chan-o-cha announced this in Paris, according to the Paris Agreement as well. But the Paris Agreement say not enough. It's not enough.
No, I think so, because we're still
every
facing
5 years, please do increase your ambition for greenhouse gas emission reduction so that we will
So we
meet the
use less
target.
car, we earn little less electricity.
And generate renewable energy,
One by
that
one.
kind of
Yes.
thing, like solar energy.
You lose less solar energy.
Yeah, and energy efficiency, like
lighting.
changing the light bulb to the
to a lower
energy saving.
Okay.
Electricity,
So I just wanted
that
to
kind.
the audience to hear about this matter that each hand has a power to reduce
more efficiency
more
in
efficient-
transport as well. Means of transport.
Means of transport.
Use less car. Do more like exercise, running,
walking,
bicycle, that
this
kind
is
of thing. That's part of the world to do the climate
Many
action.
of the country in Scandinavian, they do like to go
A
such
lot.
thing,
Yes.
Those countries do. So that's why you can see the blues.
And planting
the blue.
trees, yes, and planting trees. That kind of thing are part of the climate
Ah,
action.
when we talk about planting thing, I think that Thailand has been coming up with TGO because of this one of the school or something that you have to plant some trees before your graduation or something. That is one of the best way of
I think so. Because I see at the article recently, it says the author thinks that the best technology to combat the climate change is only to plant trees because we cut them. So the balance, the earth balance, like is stay in balance because of that. So the simple thing is increase.
So easy thing to do.
Yes,
Just growing. They don't ask you to do
and
something.
maintain. Yeah.
Maintain it. So what potential measures to help to limit greenhouse gas emissions?
For example, the increasing the renewable energy, like the solar energy. So that's why nowadays you can see that the growth of people who use and the suppliers for the solar panels increase because the world is going this way, and the price will be lower and lower once the people understand and use more. So more suppliers for production on this way. Wind energy is not quite growing well for the country like us. Energy efficiency would be something to think. Hydropower, that kind of thing would do quite a lot. Energy efficiency, of course. Transport, EV, I think
Yeah.
EV is quite interesting to think about and paving the way because China
But still less people do it.
use the EV.
A lot of them.
A
yeah.
lot.
But is that cost what kind of that special car? The car must be special or what? That affordable to the people. You know.
Well, yes, the development would go towards this way, I think. The car would have the technology improvement towards this way. That's why you see the tax that we pay for the
Very
usage of the
high,
car.
yeah.
Now, in the past,
don't care?
you pay your tax from the cc of the
the
petrol, of the size of your car. But nowadays, the government would express that, okay, we will calculate your tax from the emissions. So when you go to the car showroom nowadays, you will see the information of how much this car emits in terms of CO2, carbon dioxide emissions, greenhouse gas. So the world, like in many countries, go
Hand in hands and in the
towards
same
this way. Higher technology and concern of the climate have that's kind of climate concern, climate policy, and the private sector. Many like the good governance private sector, leading private sector, would pay attention to the development and put in that policy. Not only the private sector in Thailand, but in around the world. And public sector, everyone get being like awakened that we have to do something and carry on our development to this path. Not just like heavily based on the fossil fuel.
Yeah, just like fire. So it's happened one time and again back to the original. Or back
And sometimes it has some more problems like PM 2.5.
Yeah. That is a part of it, right?
Well,
that shows.
another thing, but the burning, the combustion.
That's at least, I think because of
It
that,
has some
people are
effect.
starting scaring. People thought, this is
But the
real.
good thing
It's
is,
happening.
people start to be aware of is the two things about the climate change and the PM 2.5. That's like more of the air pollution, and then happens. But the climate change is the atmosphere. But however, something that we can see on the positive side is that people are aware of the environmental problem more and more.
So what are the strategies of Thailand's climate change master plan?
Thailand, by the Office of Natural Resources, Environmental Policy and Planning, a bit long, but so called in short ONEP.
Okay.
ONEP. Under Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment, ONEP is the national focal point of this convention
Okay.
for Thailand, for the country. So ONEP formulated the climate change master plan for like long term to the year 2050. That Thailand will have to do the adaptation to the impact of climate change. Thailand will have to do the mitigation or reduce the emissions, and Thailand will have to encourage and do more like education, capacity building, and raise awareness to people, to stakeholders more, and to do the international collaboration. So the main essence of the policy from the master plan on climate change we have in place, but we have the government policy in place more and more nowadays. The national strategies, 20 years, already address climate change as one part of the branch of the national strategy. The national economic and social development, the 12th plan, already addressed the climate change in that. The national reform plan addressed the climate change in that. So actually we have quite a lot of things to do to the plan. So realization happens later. It's about implementation and monitor and evaluation.
What are your TGO, actually your or TGO's challenges?
We have quite a lot of challenges. We are quite a small organization, less than 100 people working, but we do
so
the
important.
service.
You become from
We do the service
prime important.
because we encourage the public sector, private sector, cities, as well, like municipalities and provinces, we make them understand about how this is about the problem, and you can do the climate action on your part, on your role. But then encouraging for them to develop the projects and to do the projects. And if you develop the project and you tell, okay, this is how much I reduce. Well, reliability is one thing, but TGO would do the role of calculating the greenhouse gas emission reduction for your agencies. So we are more or less the certified body of the greenhouse gas, because greenhouse gas, you cannot touch it, it's in the air. But it's, my colleague said, it's like love. Love is real.
Love is real, yes.
But you cannot touch it. But you can but it's better than that. You can calculate the greenhouse gas emissions and reduction. So that's TGO.
Okay, so I wish you all the best for such a heavy at heart business that you're doing, actually.
Thank you.
We're ending up our program with great thanks to Mrs. Natarika Wayuparb Nitiphon. She's the Deputy Executive Director of Thailand's Greenhouse Gas Management Organization, called in short is TGO. So thank you for joining us, and come back and tell us more if you reach into any successful things. Thank you. ขอบคุณค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ
We end up our programs and with thanks and looking forward to see you again and hope you enjoy the show then.